Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I am your host, Shawn Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. JW Marriott, Nashville, Tennessee, at the Restaurant Transformation Tour Festival. Restaurant 365, they keep doing a better job every single time. We've covered 4 events for them. And what I am so impressed with, I just got done with lunch, and then I get to come and meet Blake and Ryan, who own 14 original Pancake Houses.
That's right, 14.
So I get to meet crazier people than me. We have 3 barbecue restaurants in San Diego. We've been doing it for 16 years. We're crazy enough to build a media company on top. But I love to talk to people like you guys that are truly growing businesses. You have an incredible brand. I was telling you how much I love the original Pancake House in San Diego. Huge fan of what you guys do. How'd you guys get started?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, so Ryan and I grew up together.
You grew up together.
Yeah.
And you thought it'd be a good idea to go into business together?
Well, in the long term, yeah. I mean, so we grew up together, didn't have any business intentions originally. But
how old?
We grew up playing sports. So
Since we've known each other?
Yeah.
We played
Kids.
We played sports together as kids.
Okay.
So
Which sport? Which
high
sport
school
was the
together.
first sport?
I remember playing basketball with him in grade school, and then he ended up being a football player, and I ended up being a basketball player.
Okay.
So,
2 different body styles.
Two different, but same age.
We're close in age. He's a grade older than me.
A grade older than you.
Was.
Okay.
I mean, this is a long time. This is a long time ago now.
I like getting this is how we find out
Yeah.
the foundation of a partnership.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so I mean, the quick of it is we like to travel.
Okay.
And so when we were in college, we went to 2 different colleges, but we like to travel. We traveled around the country. We planned a trip with a couple of buddies to travel into Europe, but we didn't have any money. And so we started a business together, Ryan and I did, doing landscaping.
Okay.
And so we just, we created a relationship with a local, like mulch company, bark dusting company in Oregon, where we're from.
Yep.
And laid down bark for people and made enough money to go and spend the summer in Europe. And then while we're in Europe, we're humping around on trains thinking, man, this is pretty rad. We work well together. We have fun together. Let's go into business together. This sounds great. But neither one of us had, a widget that we could make and replicate and make $1 million from. So, at that time, we're 22-year-old guys thinking, well, what are we going to do? What do we like to do, right? We like to eat food. We like to drink beer. We should open a restaurant. And,
Of course,
And
yeah.
so we're going to open a sports bar, right? Like probably every
There
20.
we go. I opened up a sports bar with
yeah.
one of my best friends from college.
Okay,
yeah.
so you did it.
We did it.
You fulfilled the dream.
And then we get into barbecue. I mean, it is
So
what
we're
it
still
is.
working that
You're
way.
still working.
We're in our 40s. We're still looking to get that sports bar
Are there
open.
TVs at Original Pancake House?
None that shows live sports
Okay.
like that.
No
yeah.
live sports. Okay, gotcha.
So, but we had the intention. We kind of came back. We both realized maybe that wasn't the best idea. So we're going to go to grad school. And we both went our separate ways. We both started grad school, and then we're like, man, we don't have anything going on right now in life. If we're going to take a big jump, let's do it now.
Yeah.
So we said, let's do it. Let's open the sports bar. And being from Oregon, where we're from, is where the original Pancake House is from originally.
Okay.
So it was iconic in our community. The first franchise was in Salem, where we grew up, and it had been there for 50 years. And we happen to both know a family friend who is the owner of that location. And so we're thinking, okay, we're going to open a sports bar. Who do we know that owns a restaurant that can give us some advice?
Yep.
And so we take this guy out to breakfast, and he says, first, don't open a sports bar. And so he says, if you want to learn about restauranting, come do what I do. If you want families, and we both now have families and we both have kids, and he said, you'll have your afternoons and evenings open for your families and kids in the long run, if that's part of your long game, which it was for us. And although we were both single at the time, but he said, come and learn from us. So he said, if you can, for us, and you've been to the original Pancake House, for us, everything is fresh from scratch.
Yep.
It's kind of our stitch. It's like everything is, all of our sauces, syrups, batters, everything's made from scratch daily. We don't have a freezer. We don't have a microwave. That's kind of our thing. So he said, but if you can't make it, you can't sell it. So you got to come and learn how to cook. So I dropped out of law school, came down and cooked for him for 2 years. Ryan left his job. He was going to be a teacher and a coach.
Took a job working graveyards.
Really?
Yeah, in Eastern Washington.
Okay.
And then along the way, Blake started line cooking at the original Pancake House in Salem.
Yeah, $10
I
an
lived
hour.
in Eastern Washington.
What did your family tell you while you were doing this?
Oh,
Like you were at grad school, you were at law school.
yeah, we
And now you're slanging pancakes.
They
Yeah,
still
we-
think we're crazy. I mean, yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, it was one thing to open one restaurant, but then we just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And it was a journey. I mean, when I was working graveyards, during the day I'd work all night, take a couple hours of sleep, get up, write a business plan, Blake would cook in the morning, and then we'd both drive 2.5 hours and meet, write our business plan. Took what, 2 years, 2.5 years?
It's just pre smartphone, right? So we can't There's no
There's
FaceTime.
no, there's no
It was like
collaborative spaces.
Yeah, so we're trying to,
virtual
we
spaces.
figure we have some time. We're going to build a business plan, and we want to do it right?
Yep.
So I actually remember going and getting one of those how to write a business plan ABC books.
Yeah.
We did the whole thing, and we wrote it like a college paper. I mean, it was awesome if you look back on it, but it's also
still have it?
a little embarrassing. I'm sure it's saved somewhere.
somewhere?
Yeah. But we met in the middle and worked out a business plan and shopped it around for a year or two to try and find investors.
Did you find anybody?
Yeah. So
How many no's did you get before you got a yes?
plenty of no's, but a lot of the thing is we're from a small town, so there's a lot of people want to support us, right?
Yeah.
And so we
weren't cold calling. We weren't going through the yellow pages.
Okay. You were asking friends and family.
Friends and family, or friends of friends of
Yep.
family. Just people who have.
And how many people told you not restaurants?
A lot of people told us not restaurants, but
they're like, we're proud of you. We hope you do well. Good luck. Not me though.
Just not our money.
Exactly.
I think
Go get 'em.
the thing for us, I think we were young, ambitious, and tried to sell ourselves as much as we tried to sell, the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And we weren't asking for a ton of money.
Yep.
Right. We were taking little bites.
Yep.
And we tried to offer them something that was enticing, that wasn't something that we felt comfortable with, and the amount of money. So we ended up having, I don't know, 6 or 7 private investors, little chunks.
Yep.
Our offer to them was that we were going to double their money in 5 years. So that was
Yep.
kind of our thing. And we ended up doing it. It worked out great.
Awesome.
We opened our first restaurant in Washington in a little town called Puyallup, which nobody can say. So we both moved there, opened our first restaurant in 2009. We were both 26 years old
Yep.
at the time. And we cooked. I mean, we did all of it. We cooked and managed and served for 4 years.
So part of it though, and you remember this. You've been in business. You said 60. So right before we got in business, we just had our 50-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
So you got in business right before the recession, which is kind of
2008 we opened.
Okay, so we were
bad location, bad timing, all of it.
But you're still here, which is a blessing.
We've
Right?
got tough skin.
No, and for us too, and we probably learned some things along the way that have helped us in the long run. I think, right?
Yeah.
Because when we were going through this training, we were going through, driving up and down the freeway, showing our business plan to people, sitting down, having those uncomfortable meetings, asking for money, which isn't easy and nobody likes, and it's awkward for everybody. But it was 2007, 2008. Money was pretty free and easy, right? So, so the people that that gave us a little bit of money, and like Brian said, it was chunks. But we were able to take that money and put it down on an SBA loan. So the SBA was huge at the time. And we actually applied for the SBA loan in 2008, 2007, maybe, and it takes forever. And we start shopping around. We start spending some of the money that we had from the investors, right? But we had this chunk we're going to put down on a larger SBA loan to get us in. And this is one of those memorable moments for me.
I remember right where I was at.
I was living with my in-laws at the time I had gotten married. He had gotten married also. We found a location.
I was actually unemployed at the time because we just dropped out of grad school.
Yeah.
My wife at the time was still in grad school, and I hadn't started working at this graveyard job yet.
Yeah.
That was going to fill a gap. But I was in my in-laws' basement by myself watching the news because we were expecting to hear back. Our loan that we applied for was, in underwriting in the bank, and we were just waiting. The economy was on pins and needles, waiting for this big collapse to happen.
It was a brutal time.
Yeah.
Like watching the news was brutal. That time.
So the first, if you remember the whole TARP thing with Bush, the very first time that they tried to push it through Senate, it failed. And so I remember watching on TV, he was watching on TV, and we called each other, and our loan's in underwriting. So we've already taken this money from the investors. We've already spent some of it, right? We've got a lease. And our loan, which is an underwriting, everybody's like, yeah, it's good, right? Because that's how it was before. Now all of a sudden, like you're seeing, the banks are going to seize the headlines are the economy's in a free fall. Everything's like you put a pause on the stock market, everything's done.
Yep.
And we're thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. Like we failed before we even got off the ground. And that day, Ryan gets a phone call from the bank saying you got through underwriting.
Come sign now.
The same day.
No way.
We jumped in our car and drove to Seattle and signed our papers.
Closed the loan.
How long did it take to drive to Seattle?
from where I was, it was like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you in Oregon? Were you already?
No,
in
I was in Puyallup, so I
But
was
you
about an
met-
hour
you
from
met
yeah,
up
we
there
met
to
there,
sign
we
the
signed the
papers.
documents, we're like, let's fund this loan, let's get it to us.
Wow.
So, and then we opened, right? So then we took that, and you know, you start a business. We spent years planning. We both know how to cook. We worked hard, but you don't know what you don't know until
Yep.
you're just smacked in the face with it, right? And so we opened our door in June 2009, and by the grace of God, we're busy from the day we opened, and we didn't know what we were doing. I mean,
Yeah.
like we're both in the back cooking. Because we're our only 2 trained cooks, right? And we
Nice.
have a restaurant full of people, and everybody's upset. None of our servers really know what they're doing. We try to do some training,
Yeah.
but it was just, I'm even talking to you now, I'm getting a little bit like worked up.
You're like, what was happening?
You know,
I've
so,
buried all these
you know,
memories.
and we're in our 20s, and Ryan's dad, bless his heart, is a great guy.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and he starts seeing how the panic.
Yeah.
So he essentially acts as our de facto host. We didn't know.
He's
But
hosting, that's
he's like, he's
fantastic.
apologizing to people as
Yeah.
they're leaving. He's apologizing as they're coming.
Yes,
You
both.
know?
You're getting an
He-
apology both. You get a welcome
at one
apology.
Point, at one point, he was standing outside the front doors. People would come in, and he'd give them a little like warning, and then he'd be there to
I laugh
to
because
follow
I
up
know
on the
it
way
too
out.
well. I know it too well.
If
I've
you've been
lived
through
it.
it, you
I've
know.
lived
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I've
exactly.
lived it. I know.
But then things kind of settled out, you know, for the next year we learned how to, you know, we cooked every day, you know, one of us was there every day. And then eventually it got to be the point where one of us would be in the front, one of us would be in the kitchen.
Yep.
And we'd even switch halfway in the day. And then, you know, got to the point where we'd both be in the front because we found guys that could cook better than us.
Yep.
And so then we'd be out touching tables and meeting people. And, you know, a year or two later, suddenly the landlords say it's, you know, a lot of empty spaces now. It's 2011, 2012.
Yep.
The economy's already taken its toll, and there's empty spaces, and we're still there, and we're growing, and so landlords start reaching out to us. It's kind of a crazy
awesome.
thing. And so kind of fast forward, now it's, you know, we have 14 stores in 4 states, and
Tell me about technology. I mean, tell me about, we're here at the restaurant, you know, 365
Yeah.
event. Why are you guys here?
yeah.
I mean, so we like to think that we're one of the original R365 clients.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that's actually true or
I'll
not.
verify it. I'll check with Tony.
But when we first signed up with them was what, 2018?
2018, I
Okay.
think. So
2018.
they're a much different company than they are now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Just in the 3 years that we've been covering
Yeah.
content, doing content with them.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's been interesting for us in our journey is we're part of an organization that's been around since the 50s, 1950s, right? And we were, like I said, we were 26 when we opened our store,
Yep.
our first store. Young, green, learning the industry. But where we came from in Oregon, they're established restaurants,
Yep.
right? They've been around for 30, 40 years or more.
Yep.
And so we're building something in a different generation.
Yep.
And so, and then as we once we got to the point where we're opening the second store and the third store, like the world's just changed a lot.
Yep.
And so for us, it's like we're constantly trying to balance that the tradition of our concept,
Correct.
right, and staying current, knowing that there's going to be new generations of guests that are growing up, and
Correct.
and there's different expectations
Yep.
in today's world. So technology for us, we're old enough that we're like we got through college before we had cell phones. Right.
I know. I
Right,
know
so
all
we're
about
not
it. I
like
know
we
all
didn't
about it.
grow up in that.
Yeah.
So we're still a little bit uncomfortable with a lot of it.
Yeah.
But we also know how important it is, and I think what's been challenging over the last really 15 years since we started, but really I think in the last 10 years, is the involvement in technology is, it's crazy.
Yep.
But what sticks and what doesn't stick.
Correct.
Right. So the number of things that we look at, like, oh,
Flash
that's
in the
that,
pan.
But you have to kind of decide in the moment if it's going to
Correct.
be a flash
Yeah.
in the pan or not. Like, the number of services that we've signed up for whatever, third-party delivery,
Yeah.
right? Third-party delivery management.
Yep.
This thing that sends the thing to the kitchen or sends it to a monitor or sends it to a certain printer. Like, there's all these things that evolved over time
Yep.
and in a quick period. And so you sign up for them, you integrate them into your operations, which is a big deal, right?
Sure, it's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal for one restaurant, let alone 14.
Yeah, and it's just a huge deal for your staff.
Yeah.
Right. And then if it doesn't stick or it doesn't work, then you
Yeah.
got to change it again, and you're
Not
spending
only
money,
that, but you're losing the
time.
trust of the team and the leader,
Right.
like the leaders on your team. Like, oh, another thing, Sean's bringing another tech tool.
That's right. That's right.
Like, what do I have to do with it? Where are the reports? Where's the login? Where's this? Where, like, what do we need to do with it?
But
right.
but the reality is when you find the ones that work,
Correct.
like R365,
Yeah.
like there are some efficiencies that you could never have without.
And you can't live
those
without
pieces.
afterwards. You just
you
don't even remember what it was like without it.
Well, and I think the challenge is, I know you have business in California. Most of our business is in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
Without getting too political, it's a challenging environment for small businesses.
For sure.
And it's constantly evolving, right? So we're trying to adapt our business model
Yep.
and still trying to maintain some level of profitability. And so you're always looking for that efficiency edge, right? So something changes, something evolves in how we have to treat our employees or in food costing or whatever it is. And so we're going to lose this 0.5%, 2%, 1%, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a big number, right?
Huge number.
And so how are you going to make up that 1%, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking for efficiencies. And I think technology, it's funny because in our concept, we are the youngest franchisees.
That's
so
awesome.
we were the youngest franchisees 15 years ago.
You still
Yeah,
are.
and still are the youngest franchisees. And so, so I think there's an assumption that, hey, these guys are like the tech forward guys.
Yeah.
But that's not us by nature. We're we're simple.
I mean, the reality is, if we were tech guys, we would get out into the tech industry. But
Yeah.
Are you
like we
pancake guys? What are you? What kind of guys are
we're
you?
just
We love
guys.
pancakes.
I mean, like Blake said, when we were in Europe on the trains, we knew we didn't want to landscape for the rest of our careers,
That's true.
and we just said, like,
Not
what
in
can
the
we do
mulching
together
business.
that we can enjoy?
Yeah.
And we knew that we enjoyed eating, socializing.
Yep.
At the time it was like, let's eat food and drink beer and have fun.
Yep.
Right. And that's what we do. So we didn't get into it for the tech side. We got into it because we like the industry. We like connecting with people. We like making people's day better. And we think that can be accomplished through food.
Yep.
Right. And so that's why we got into it.
For
And
sure.
all the other things, the tech, the legal restrictions, all those things are
The inventory.
the inventory, like all those. There's so many things
There's
that go
5
in
million.
that go into the industry that is not just like connecting with people and
It's
serving
not
them
just a
good food.
business plan. Was it in that business plan that
Yeah,
you
no,
wrote
none
all
of
the
this.
things?
It's pretty, but so as far as like the tech goes now, I enjoy trying to find little things.
Yep.
I think the biggest challenge for us is like I hear things, even here, like I'm hearing things. I'm thinking, man, that's gonna be awesome. But then how we actually implement it is challenging, right?
Correct.
And you kind of talked about this. For us, we have, I think, I would like to say we've got a great record, but it's spotty, if I'm being honest,
If
over
you-
15
if you
years.
look- yeah, if you look
of
at
like,
it,
hey,
for sure.
listen, we jump onto something, we might pay for a new service to do whatever, but the implementation, the first 90%, 80% is great.
Yeah.
It's that last 10%, like how do we get, everybody to buy into the way that we want to buy it, and so that the product actually is like utilized in a way that's intended to. Otherwise, you're just paying for a service
Correct.
that's not really being used
Yeah.
the way it's intended to, and it becomes. But then maybe you even forget about it. So you start paying for this thing. It's $100 a month. You don't
Yep.
even know it, and you're not even using it the right way, right? So
Yeah.
now it's, hey, we're collecting a ton of data. We've talked about this at these seminars, but we're collecting a ton of data. What do you do with that information? I love collecting information,
Yeah.
and sometimes we talk about this. We can pull reports and look at it, and then you think, that's great. And then you move on with your day. Like what are you
Exactly.
going to do?
What do we do with it? Yeah.
And so like I think we still kind of are challenged with that.
What do you guys do from a marketing perspective, being a 50-year-old brand?
Well, each franchisee is very autonomous in nearly every way. That's kind of, it's unique with our brand. So every franchisee has essentially the autonomy to do their own marketing. We do all of our own, menu design and layout. And so if you come into our store versus what you've seen in Southern California or elsewhere in the country, it's going to look a little bit different. So marketing is a little bit of a challenge because we're trying to market specifically to our
Correct.
our local communities. And I think this is something we've talked about a lot. When we had 1 or 2 stores, we loved getting out and getting involved in the community. That was our thing. We would go out, we're sports guys, we would go to the local high schools and sponsor things. We were doing halftime kicks at football games, right? We're doing all these things.
Yeah.
And as we grow, right, it's scaling's
Not
hard.
scalable, yeah.
Yeah. And so we're doing different things now. And trying to expect our managers to do those things is a challenge. But now we're trying to come around, like, again, from a marketing perspective, how do we go back to the basics and still connect with communities in a real way? Because we want to be part of for us at breakfast, we want to be part of the community in like a real and unique way. And so we want them to connect with the schools. We want them to connect with churches and with other, youth programs and other things. It's easy when we live in one community and we can do those things ourselves. How do we do those things when we're living hundreds of miles or thousands of miles away from locations, which we are now? And that is a challenge.
I'll share. So recently I'm on the Toast Customer Advisory Board, and one of my friends who has been on the board with me for the last 3 years, he said something that I haven't gotten out of my head, because we love marketing, we love content, we're on digital, social storytelling. But what he said was, the greatest form of marketing is a waffle in your mouth.
Yeah.
They have a Belgian waffle concept. They have, 8 locations in the Midwest. But like a waffle in your mouth, or in our case, a brisket in your mouth, or, pancake, like how do we do sample? Like there's a reason why Costco samples.
Right.
But as a restaurant, it's hard to get away from those grassroots efforts, to your point of like being at the local. We literally put on an event for 10 years in front of our restaurant where it was an amateur barbecue contest. And it was a beast of work to do. 9 months of planning. Like we're raising money, like we're losing money, but we're raising money for the community. But everyone's getting to try the barbecue. So it's like trying to think of different ways of like, how do we as restaurateurs do the things that we do best, but use it as a way to build community, to market, right?
Absolutely.
It's the most effective way.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. There's all
someone comes and tries your pancake, like
yeah, for sure.
You win.
We've always thought if we can get them in the door once,
like,
we win them
it.
forever. But it's getting them. I mean, there's location that we've been in for years. We think, since we don't have this big national organization kind of that promotes us, in a way that's ubiquitous, right? Like some other breakfast places, people don't know us, and so there's sometimes people that live in our community, that live blocks away, that like, hey, I didn't know you were here. They've lived there for 8 years. We've been here for 8 years. Like, how do they not know? And so it's getting out. But now that we're looking back, we're trying to adapt to a new world post-COVID, right? And trying to, our business model's been shifted a little bit because of inflation and all the things. Labor costs have gone up. I'm sure it's the same for you. And so everything's a little bit upside down. We're trying to kind of go back to the basics. Okay, what was it like for us in 2009? Like we talked about in 2010. And I mean, those times were really hard, but we survived and we learned a lot of things. So let's not forget some of those lessons. We're going back and we're seeing some of our early stores are still our strongest stores. And the one thing that separates them from some of our newer stores is our involvement in the community in those early stores, right? Yeah. And so at the time, it's hard to think, is this really making a difference, right?
It is.
So we're at the midfield of a football game. There's a couple thousand people there. Pancake House, great, whatever. You walk out, you don't know. Is anybody listening, right? Is anybody watching? I don't know.
When we started this show, it's like, is anyone listening?
Yeah.
Like, no one was listening in the beginning. I mean, we're grateful now that people listen, but it's like it's building that foundation and doing it time over time, right?
That's right, yeah.
Being the tortoise, like I'm going to take the time to do the work, and eventually you have a community of people that they believe in you guys.
Right.
Like as much as they believe in the original Pancake House, they know who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have changed in marketing outside of just doing a good job and being part of the community involvement stuff, but it's. And we play with things here and there, but a lot of things are hard to track, and we reach out in different ways, social media, mailers, all the things, commercials, all those things. But it's all in an effort to get people in our doors the first time so they can learn who we are. Right, and then we serve them good food. And the one thing that hasn't changed with technology is that you need good people to serve good food. Yeah, and you can't 100%. Automate people.
That's absolutely right.
And so we're still, the reality is like our industry, like a lot of things have changed in technology, but when you just boil it down to what do we do every day, it's really the same things. It's like we got to get the people in the door, but once they're there, like we got to be good people. We got to brighten their day, and we do that through cooking really great breakfast food. And then we close at 2:00, and
awesome.
We're able to be home with our families.
It's fantastic.
So for us, it's been a great journey.
Well, if you guys wanted a reason why you need to come to events like this, I didn't know these guys until right now. And I know that if they ever make it to San Diego, they're coming to get some barbecue at Cali Barbecue. If I come up to Washington, I'm going to come and hit them up and say, let's go to Original Pancake House. But This has been awesome. Seriously, I really appreciate it. Restaurant 365, we appreciate it. They put on these events all over the country. Check them out. If you want to join us on LinkedIn Live every Wednesday, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, we have a LinkedIn Live community. You can talk about your restaurant. If you're in sales, marketing, join our digital hospitality community. Reach out to me. Are you guys on LinkedIn? No? No social?
No tech.
Are you on Instagram?
Not on social.
Not on social?
Our restaurants are.
is.
Your restaurants are? Who runs your social handles?
We have a
You
person.
got a person?
I have a little bit of social media.
Do you have a phone?
I have a phone.
Do you have an email address?
I have email.
Do you have a fax
I
machine?
actually-
Do you have a fax machine?
I actually have Instagram and
How do you
Facebook
get on
and
a
Twitter,
plane?
but it's mostly so I can keep an eye on my kids.
All right. Well, if people want to reach out to you, can you give me your email address?
Yeah,
What's your email address?
Just my email address?
No, so that people can get in touch with you guys.
Yeah, mine's Blake@btemanagementco.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
Blake.
Mine is-
Reach out to Blake.
Reach out to Blake. Mine's Ryan at btmanagementco.com.
Right on. Well, we appreciate you guys. Thank you. Stay curious. Get involved. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We'll catch you guys next week.